What's up everybody, Matt Maran here for another weekly update. So lots of exciting stuff to go over this week. The first story here is very interesting. This comes from Australian website Motor, who recently interviewed the chief engineer of both the Supra and the BRZ and 86 twins about the next gen 86 and BRZ. So he told them, "We have to make a new 86 that surpasses the Supra. This is what the customer expects." And he also added here, a new 86 team has already been formed to work on the car. And so a very interesting quote. And basically that's the whole headline of this story here is, how are they going to have the new 86 surpass the Supra? It almost certainly won't be any faster. And we already know the handling is already better than the Supra and the 86. You already have a lower center of gravity. So retaining those things will continue to keep those pros over the Supra. But I feel like this means they're taking it a step further somehow, and so that's interesting to hear. There's been lots of interesting quotes from Mr. Tata here over the years on his various projects he's worked on, but that really gets the wheels spinning. So anyway, other things here that kind of tie into this, because a few weeks ago I already mentioned some news about the next gen 86 and BRZ from Best Car magazine in Japan. They claimed that a near production concept for the 86 would be debuting at the Tokyo Motor Show next month, but if them forming an 86 team for this next gen version is a pretty new thing that they just established, then I have a hard time believing that a near production concept is already going to be shown. That sounds a little soon. So this could go one of two ways though. So did a little bit of looking back at history here, and if you'll remember, the FT86 concept, which is what led to the Scion FRS at that time and the BRZ, that debuted exactly 10 years ago at the Tokyo Motor Show in 2009, and then the production version of the FRS and the BRZ went on sale in early 2012. So that put it at a little over 2 years after that concept is when that vehicle showed up. So Best Car claims this new car will be going on sale in early 2021. So that's just about a year to a year and a half away, which sounds like a lot more of a time crunch here. That seems really soon if it's an all-new vehicle, but it might not be a completely new vehicle because if you'll remember some more history here, 2 years ago at the Tokyo Motor Show, Toyota showed off the GR-HV Sports concept, which was basically an 86 platform, but with a new front end, completely new back end, fenders, all that kind of stuff was all different, and even had a target top, so a good bit different. And it also had a hybrid powertrain. Now, Toyota never got specific as far as what type of hybridization was going on. Who knows what was under the hood of that thing. But if this is the direction of the new 86, is something similar to the GR-HV sports thing, then, I could see that coming a lot quicker. Best Car said in their report that the power is not going to go up too much because it's going to most likely be using the Subaru Ascent's 2.4 liter, but without the turbos. But they said that motor was built for torque, so it'll give the BRZ a much needed torque boost, more so than horsepower, although horsepower should go up a little bit as well. And that sounds like a nice improvement already. If they can actually get the torque to a pretty decent level, maybe over 200 pound-feet would be pretty cool. So that would be an interesting thing. But then if they do pair it up with some hybridization or some electrification to give it some type of a boost on top of that engine, that's how you can get to a pretty respectable performance. Now, I don't think it'll still outrun the Supra unless it's really impressive electric tech. But so that's kind of an interesting little twist here. And when you look back at history, maybe we've already been shown the next gen 86 with that concept, and that we'll have something new here relatively soon, in the next year or year and a half. So we'll have to wait and see. I will say, if they did a Targa version for a production model or even a full-on convertible, that could actually tempt me to add it to my fleet of vehicles, because I can't really justify having two hardtops. But if I had the Bullet for the hardtop and a convertible with this vehicle, that could be a nice little combo. So we'll have to wait and see. It's going to be very interesting to see what shows up at Tokyo. There's been so many rumors here recently. The press days, by the way, if you're counting down for the Tokyo Motor Show, are October 23rd and 24th. So those are the days to look forward to. Other stuff related to Tokyo here. Mazda's Chinese division this week teased a rotary announcement that Jalopnik actually picked up on first. And so this was thought to be coming out this week, whatever this debut was, based on their interpretation of this poster. But there hasn't been any announcement yet. So as the time of me filming this here, I'm just going to go off the little bit that Jalopnik kind of surmised from this poster. So the teaser shows this old Cosmos Sport, but the poster says that the car they'll be showing will be one of the first cars of the Mazda 7th generation cluster. I think cluster, you could also say maybe family. So this is the new Mazda family coming, and what it's going to kind of be like. So I figured this would probably wait till the Tokyo Motor Show, but I'm not sure. They seem to think that this is going to be coming out here in the next few days, whatever it is. But clearly, it's showing rotary engines. That's the big thing, is it's hinting heavily that there is rotary stuff happening. And Mazda did confirm that they're going to be showing their first production electric vehicle in Tokyo. And there's reports that that'll be, because they've been working on a rotary range extender. So think of like the BMW i3 or something, where you have a gas engine to extend the range. And this would actually make a lot of sense because, rotaries aren't the most efficient whenever you're talking about accelerating and changing speeds. But as a few of the commenters in the Jalopnik comment section actually pointed out, you can actually have a pretty efficient rotary engine if you keep it at higher speeds, and all you have to do is maintain those speeds. Then it's going to be a lot more efficient than having it speed up and slow down and all that kind of stuff. That's where you lose efficiency. So this could be very interesting. We'll have to see what comes out in Tokyo here, but most likely will be an electric vehicle with a range extender. Fingers crossed it'll be something sporty, but chances are it'll probably be some type of crossover. But, any kind of rotary coming back sounds interesting to me. So, anyway, interesting to hear that. For some official reveals here this week, Audi has revealed the 2020 RSQ3 and RSQ3 Sportback, and they're pretty awesome. So, they get this awesome 2.5-liter 5-cylinder turbo engine, the great-sounding one from the RS3 that sounds like a mini V10. It does 400 horsepower and 354 pound-feet of torque here in the Q3s. It runs all through a 7-speed automatic and standard quattro all-wheel drive. 0 to 60 is 4.5 seconds and a top speed of 174, which is pretty high for a little crossover. It also gets bigger brakes and a firmer suspension setup to keep up with all that power. There's also going to be options available here to get carbon ceramic brakes, a sportier RS suspension plus setup, and that includes dynamic chassis control. You can also get sportier seats as well. Speaking of the interior, though, it's got some nice RS touches like the digital gauges with that futuristic bar style setup similar to what we saw in the new RS6 Avant and RS7. And then the Sportback version here actually has the same cubic feet of space as the regular version, thanks to a slightly longer back end that provides it with a sporty look. So unlike other coupe SUVs, this one actually doesn't really have much compromise unless you want to stack things, of course. But if you don't, then a pretty good sized trunk still, which is nice. And so sadly, though, the biggest bummer here is that Audi has confirmed to Autoblog that this is not coming to the United States for some reason. And I can't see any good reason to not sell it here. It would sell so well. But that's what they're choosing. Instead, we're going to get the RS6 Avant, which is awesome as well, but well over 100 grand. This thing could have actually been relatively affordable, maybe in the 60s or something. And so instead, unfortunately, all the RS ones we get here in the States are way, way more expensive. So anyway, at least we did get the RS3, but it would be nice to have a more practical version as well with these SUVs. But for those of you in Germany and in other parts of Europe, it'll be arriving early next year. So cool to see that. Another awesome SUV here is, and this one I believe is coming to the United States, is the Aston Martin DBX. And so this was teased over this week by Aston Martin here, and we have a pretty clear idea here of what it's going to look like now, with just basically a wrap over most of the body panels, and that's it. So it looks to be very similar to the DB11 on the front there, and similar to the Vantage in the rear, with a full light bar going across, as we can see in the teasers. And so they also announced it's going to be getting the 4-liter twin-turbo V8 from Mercedes-AMG, but this one actually does more power than the previous versions that were available in the Vantage and the DB11. So this one does 542 horsepower and 516 pound-feet of torque. They also teased a short little sound clip on YouTube of how it'll sound, so I'll link that above. It's nothing amazing, but has a nice, a burly V8 sound to it. And the full reveal of this is going to be in December, though, so cool to see that. And in some other future British car news, Autocar just interviewed Ian Callum, the famous director of design from Jaguar, who has recently retired from Jaguar and started his own company. Anyway, Autocar interviewed him about the next-gen F-Type, so he revealed that before he left Jaguar, he worked with the person taking over for him at Jaguar, and they together sketched out a possible mid-engine setup for the next-gen F-Type. So, this is just one of the proposed designs, and so, I'm sure they have one that's probably more traditional, and then this one just completely ditches the traditional E-Type inspiration and, goes for something completely radical and very different. So in talking with Ian Callum here, he kind of revealed that if it were to go mid-engine, it would get quite close to the CX-75 concept as far as styling. CX-75 came out in 2010, and it was a concept car that was going to be produced, and then they pulled the plug at the last minute on it. But it was also the villain's car in Spectre, the James Bond movie, and made for a great chase. That is kind of, obviously they would modernize it since that vehicle is basically 10 years old at this point. But, a sleeker, sharper version of that, which is already a very sleek-looking vehicle, that's what we could be getting for a next-gen F-Type, supposedly. Obviously, going to mid-engine will definitely improve the performance of it. We saw that with the mid-engine Corvette, so that would be a no-brainer if they want to go for the highest performance possible. But Autocar says there's still a strong possibility that it'll stay front-engine, too. It just depends. Even though they say there are a good amount of Jaguar engineers that are actually pushing for a mid-engine setup, and that's what they want to do. So we'll have to see. Obviously, budget constraints and stuff are going to be the main issue, since Jaguar and Land Rover aren't, flush with cash right now. They're kind of in some rough times currently, so we will have to see, if they can find the budget to, make that big of a change. Whatever happens, we do know the F-Type is safe, and it will be getting a significant refresh here for the 2021 model year. That's been spied several months ago. It's going to be getting some horizontal lights instead of the vertical ones it has currently up front, and some other tweaks to it. But anyway, it'll get that styling for the 2021 model year and continue on with that for the following 3 years after that, meaning this new model, if it comes with mid-engined F-Type, could be at least 4 years away. So nothing happening super soon, but that's a very exciting idea. So interesting to hear that. Malaysian website Paltan got some info on future AMG models thanks to their interview with AMG's CEO. And so they asked him about the 416 horsepower AMG four-cylinder that just came out a few months back in the A45 and the CLA 45S versions. And they asked him why it makes so much power. And he said, the reason is that we're going to be using that engine for further applications, which are not necessarily east-west applications. So this means that the engine could be mounted in a longitudinal configuration, most likely, a rear-wheel drive-based platform, and not just the front-wheel drive-based stuff that we see, with the CLAs and stuff like that. So he didn't give any details about what he was mentioning or referring to, but he did say that some ideas related to that engine would be shown later this year, meaning, because we do know that the Maybach SUV is coming to the LA Auto Show in November. And so I'm guessing this is suggesting that there's going to be maybe another vehicle that will either be shown as a concept or as a production vehicle that could have this engine in this new configuration. And so, everyone's been kind of guessing about what that could be. And Autoblog had some ideas here, and I kind of tend to agree with them that 416 horsepower is a good amount more than what that six-cylinder does in the C43 AMGs and the GLC 43s. Those are like 385 odd horsepower, I believe, and this being 416 is over that. Obviously, it's a four-cylinder, not a six, so it's not going to be as good sounding, in my opinion, and also probably won't be as smooth, but you have more power. And if they even just leave that the way it is, you have a nice upgrade for the 43 models. Or you could detune it to kind of do less horsepower, but then add some electrification or something to it, and then have a new 43 model that way. So, that's, definitely possible, and that would give it a little more breathing room between the 43s and the 53s, since the 53 gets that inline six. And so, we'll have to wait and see how that all pans out there. But a very interesting little nugget there by Paul Tan. So cool of them to report back on that. We'll have to wait and see. Speaking of electrification, though, there's only one story this week. So minimizing the electrification talk. But Maserati did announce their plans for the next couple of years and revealed that the next version of the Ghibli coming in 2020, it's just going to be a refresh for the Ghibli. But that's going to be getting a hybrid setup next year. And they didn't elaborate on that too much, or what it would be using. But a few other things they did mention here is that next year is also going to finally bring about the production version of the Alfieri. They just are calling it the sports car in their press release, but will most likely look like the Alfieri, and that was from 5 years ago. So expect it to be modernized a little bit, but something along those lines. That's also going to get electrified. There's been talks of it being full EV, some of them having V8s or both, or just an option of different powertrains. So we'll have to see what ends up happening there. But that's not going to be replacing the Gran Turismo. The Gran Turismo is going to be getting its all-new version in 2021. So lots of sporty stuff here coming, in 2020 and 2021 from Maserati. Also coming by the end of 2021 is going to be a new SUV that'll most likely be smaller than the Levante. And lastly, they said that the Quattroporte, Levante, and Ghibli will all get mild refreshes and powertrain updates in the next few years. Most likely whatever the Ghibli gets will continue on to the Levante and the Quattroporte. But they're not going to be getting all new versions for a while. So expect those to stick around for a good while. Hopefully they get some significant styling changes, since the styling is a little bit stale on those currently, since they've been around for several years already, but we'll have to see. The last little thing they did also mention is that they also plan to start with level 2 autonomous features and eventually get to level 3, which is about basically what Cadillac does with their Super Cruise for a hands-free experience. They want to get to that too on the refreshes of these current models. So look for refreshed Levantes and stuff to have basically Super Cruise tech if everything goes according to the way that Maserati wants it to. So we'll have to wait and see. But anyway, interesting to hear all that. Lastly, we have a couple of truck stories here thanks to the Texas State Fair going on this week. And so there's a few other SUVs and trucks that got trim packages and things like that, but that's not worth talking about in my opinion. But there are a couple actual big changes here. And so first off, Ford has revealed the specs finally for the 2020 F-Series Super Duties that they revealed several months ago now. And they came out swinging for these specs and basically got best-in-class numbers in almost every way. So first off, that 6.7-liter Power-Stroke diesel V8 engine in the F250 to F450s here, it now does 475 horsepower and 1,050 pound-feet of torque, which is 50 more pound-feet than the Ram Heavy Duty that came out in January and made headlines with 1,000 pound-feet of torque. This is 1,050, so had to go a little bit further. And anyway, on the Ford here, it's going to be getting a heavy-duty 10-speed automatic to go with that. Tow ratings have also went up to a max of 37,000 pounds for the most heavy-duty setup with the gooseneck trailer and stuff. And then if you want to do fifth wheel towing, it goes to 32,500 pounds, and regular towing for these is 24,200 pounds. But all best-in-class numbers, very impressive. And they also revealed the specs here. You can get the new 7.3-liter naturally aspirated V8 engine, and that is available, and that does 430 horsepower and 475 pound-feet of torque. So yeah, those numbers obviously it's not going to be tuned to be like a Mustang engine or anything like that. It's a much heavier engine for these trucks, so that's why it doesn't do tons of power there. But anyway, I think those still are some pretty competitive and best-in-class numbers even for the naturally aspirated V8. Anyway, these are all going to be available by the end of the year, and so anyway, interesting to see that. The last story this week is news about the refreshed 2020 Nissan Titan, which was also revealed at the Texas State Fair here, and it gets a new grille, a new front bumper, the LED headlights here you can see with this double boomerang lighting signature, which is on the higher trims. I think the lowest trim and the second lowest trim don't get it, but all the other trims do, and they also give you actually better lighting as well as the cooler look. You get some new taillights in the back that are a little smokier and darker in their appearance, and also new tailgate styling there depending on, again, what trim you get. They were really excited about the Pro 4X version, which you can now get this hot version, which is got this red badging and things things like that if you'd like. Other things though, on the inside, you get a new dual pane panoramic moonroof that's available. There's an 8-inch infotainment screen as standard now with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but there's also a 9-inch display available that looks to be pretty similar to the one in the new Nissan Maxima that I reviewed, but it still seems to have those low-res graphics that Nissan has. I don't know why Nissan doesn't do nicer menus and stuff. It just makes it look cheap. So even though technically this is the largest display in a truck outside of the Ram's 12-inch display, it just still doesn't seem like it's quite as nice as all the other 8-inch displays that the other companies have. Anyway, there's also a 7-inch display in the gauges too, and mechanically the 5.6 liter V8 remains the only engine available, but it does get 10 more horsepower now for 400 total, and there's a new 9-speed automatic that replaces the old 7-speed automatic, which is nice that they're working on an automatic, but I really wish they would adapt that transmission to other Nissan products so that every other Nissan doesn't have to be forced to get a CVT transmission, it seems. That 9-speed auto, it might be pretty nice. And so, Ford shares their 10-speed auto from the F-150 in the Mustang and stuff. So I don't see why they couldn't put this 9-speed in the Altima and Maxima and stuff like that. But anyway, another little mini rant there. But as far as the Titan goes here, no pricing or release date has been revealed yet. But I'm sure those things will be coming relatively soon because this should be going on sale pretty quickly here. But yeah, so that's it for all the news this week, guys. Let me know your thoughts on everything in the comments below. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Take care.